Okay, pre-cal students, in this video we will be studying the set of trig identities called product to sum and sum to product identities, okay? So obviously your heading will be product to sum and sum to product identities, lesson 10.5, and be sure to include today's date in your notes, okay? All right, let's continue on. There's a lot of identities to write down, so I would not try to write these down right now. You can find them on page 661. Okay, I would copy these down on your trig identity sheet later, not now, okay? But what they do is this. If you have a sine times a sine or a cosine times a cosine, or a sine times a cosine or a cosine times a sine, it splits it up for you so that you now have cosine minus cosine or cosine plus cosine, etc. So it takes it from a product and writes it as a sum. That's why it's called product to sum. Now over here, we have two sines being added or two sines being subtracted or two cosines, etc. Well, it takes a sum, and even though it's a sum and we see minus signs here, that's the same thing. In higher level math, they just call all of that a sum because you're really just combining two terms, okay, or two trig expressions. So you're taking a sum and you're rewriting it over here, so it's a product. You have 2 sine of this angle times cosine, or 2 cosine of this angle times sine, etc. Okay, so let's quickly look at 2 examples, just 2, and we'll be finished. Okay, so here we go. I would like us to take this and write it as a sum. Okay, now right now it's a product because we have cosine times sine, okay? Cosine times sine. So what we're going to do is we're first of all going to realize that we're going to call 5x u and 4x v. Now go back to your trig identity sheets, and if you'll look, we have, hold on one second, we have cosine times sine right here, okay? So we're going to take this and we're going to split it up into this over here, realizing that u is 5x and v is 4x, okay? So here's what we have. Let's write this down, please, okay? We have 1/2 sine of u plus v. Whenever you have cosine times sine, it's the same thing as 1/2 times sine of u plus v minus sine of u minus v. Okay, so copy that down. And that's right here from your trig identity sheet, right here, okay? Now let's go ahead and skip a step here and look at this. For u plus v, for u I'm going to put 5x, and for v I'm going to put 4x. So 5x plus 4x would be 9x. And here for u it's 5x, and here for v it's 4x. So I have 5x minus 4x. So I would end up with this right here. 1/2 sine of 9x minus sine of x, okay? Now you could leave it like this, and I have no problem with that at all, but you could also multiply the 1/2 through, and it would probably be better to multiply the 1/2 through, okay? So if you multiply the 1/2 through, you would simply be left with this, okay? 1/2 times sine of 9x minus 1/2 sine of x, and that's it, okay? Very simple. These are very, very simple simplifying problems, okay? All right, moving on to our next example. Please go ahead and copy this in your notes. Okay, students, here we go. We're going to solve by using, of course, this should be exact, so sorry about that. We're going to solve this by using exact values, okay? Now, we have the cosine of 195. The cosine of 195 is really difficult to solve by using exact numbers because we have no idea what the cosine of 195 is, and there's really no reference angle for that. I mean, the reference angle for 195 would be 15 degrees, okay? And so what we're going to do here is we're going to try to take this expression here that's written as a sum, and we're going to try to write it as a product and see if that helps us, okay? So the first thing we realize is that 195 is my u and cosine is my, or 105 is my v, okay? Now look at your trig identities, the ones that are sum to products, okay? Sum to products. If you'll look at the third one down, it's a cosine plus a cosine, okay? So what I realize is I have this. I can use this right here, okay? I can, well, actually, I said U, didn't I? I should call this my X. Sorry about that. And this is my Y, okay? So students, what I'm going to do where the X is, I'll put 195, okay, right here, plus Y, which is 105. Okay, over here I'd have X, 195, minus 105, which is my Y. And of course, all that's divided by 2. So here's what you come up with, okay? You would have 150 because 195 plus 105 is 300 divided by 2. And 195 minus 105 is 90 divided by 2. So what you end up with is this, 2 cosine of 150 cosine of 45. Now, students, I'm not being at all impatient, okay, but we've done so many of these, like cosine of 150. We know, we draw our line, and the reference angle is 30, and we know cosine is negative right here. Okay, so I'm not going to do all the steps for you. I'm just going to simply say this. The cosine of 150 is negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay? You have a chart for that, or a table, or a special triangle, okay? The cosine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. So we have a positive times a negative, which is a negative times a positive. So you know you have a negative answer. And then put the 2 over 1 and do all your multiplying, okay? And if you do it correctly, you're going to get your 2 will cancel with your 2. Square root of 3 times square root of 2 is square root of 6. And 1 times 2 is 2. So you shouldn't end up with this right here. Negative square root of 6 over 2. And please don't try to reduce these two numbers because one is an inside number, it's under the radical, and one is an outside number, okay? It's not under a radical, okay? So we were able to take 195 degrees and 105 degrees, and using the sum to product identities, actually work it out and simplify it and solve it with exact numbers, okay? So let's quickly review. I hope this video has been a help to you. What we have looked at today would be the product to sum formulas or identities and the sum to product formulas or identities also, okay? So hopefully this has been a help to you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call or email.